Ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about the ruling from the Supreme Court on Trump's tariffs and how Democrats are prematurely celebrating. And the joy that they take, it seems like, in just watching the U.S. get decimated by foreign nations. But wait, not so fast, because it looks like the Trump administration has already addressed it all. And so we're going to break it all down and what everything means. As always, if you do enjoy the content, make sure you go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. And to stay locked in with future videos, subscribe to the channel. And as always, turn those notification bells on, because YouTube can act kind of freaky with the letting you guys know when I drop content. Let's get right into it.
Worker in that state.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're interrupting Kevin at the White House because we have breaking news from the Supreme Court. It has reached a major decision. CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed has the details. What's this case about, Paula?
This is one of the most significant cases that the justices have decided in recent years. Here, the Supreme Court ruling that President Trump's use of these emergency tariffs that he has implemented are illegal. It's the most significant economic case to reach the high court in years, sweeping implications for the economy and, of course, for presidential power. And at stake here are billions of dollars in revenue that have already been collected by the government.
I mean, you just got to love the media spin, especially when you can recognize it. And so you just heard them label Trump's tariffs as illegal because of the Supreme Court ruling, but that's not what the court actually said. The Supreme Court did not declare Trump's tariffs illegal. They ruled that Trump can't use the specific law, IEEPA. In other words, it's not no tariffs. It's he can't use that particular statute to implement them. And so it's a big difference, obviously, once you understand that part. But that didn't stop Democrats from coming out like they just won the championship. The celebration tour started immediately. You had people like Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker feeling like they should chime in. Check it out.
The Supreme Court just confirmed what we already knew. Trump's tariffs are illegal. He did it without the support of Congress or the voters, and you paid the price. He illegally took $1,700 from every American family. That's a tax on working people. Donald Trump now owes you a refund for every dollar of it. America's working families deserve a refund. Cut the check, Donald.
He's unhinged. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged. Even his hand-picked Supreme Court said what he was doing was lawless. The tariffs were illegal from day one. A tax increase on ranchers, on farmers, on small businesses, on you and me. Donald Trump should return that money immediately. He has an obligation, $1,751 per family, that were taxed by Donald Trump. Pay us back. Put that money back in the pockets of working families and the American people.
Several of Republicans in Congress have supported this decision by the Supreme Court. And Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, has called you a wannabe king.
Yeah, so you heard that. And Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker should literally probably be the last people talking about this. But of course, they got to get out there. Newsom auditioning because he wants to be the next president. Pritzker trying to score points however possible. His state prepares to lose the Chicago Bears. How'd you do that? Along with all the other jobs that have left Illinois. Let's not talk about that. But somehow they're positioned as the voice of economic authority. I mean, give me a break. But here's the part that they're not highlighting. The Trump administration was clearly preparing for this outcome. They had a contingency plan in place in case the ruling didn't go their way. And so almost immediately after the decision came down, President Trump moved to reissue tariffs under different legal authorities. And that's the key detail, but check it out for yourself.
Those statutes include, think of that, those statutes include, for example, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Section 232. All of these things I know so well. The Trade Act of 1974, Sections 122, 201, 301. And the Tariff Act of 1930, Section 338, all clear. But it's a little bit longer process. I thought I'd make things simple, but they didn't let us do that.
I would also like to take a moment to address today's Supreme Court ruling, and I would note that I did not change a single word in my speech post the ruling. President Trump will always put our national security and Americans first. And as I have said before, the president has multiple tools in his toolbox. Let's be clear about what today's ruling was and what it wasn't. Despite the misplaced gloating from Democrats, ill-informed media outlets, and the very people who gutted our industrial base, the court did not rule against President Trump's tariffs. 6 justices simply ruled that IEEPA authorities cannot be used to raise even $1 of revenue. This administration will invoke alternative legal authorities to replace the IEEPA tariffs. We will be leveraging Section 232 and Section 301 tariff authorities that have been validated through thousands of legal challenges. Treasury's estimates show that the use of Section 122 authority, combined with potentially enhanced Section 232 and Section 301 tariffs, will result in virtually unchanged tariff revenue in 2026. And
so let's remember something. Under the Constitution, the power to impose tariffs belongs to Congress. That's Congress's authority. But Congress can delegate certain powers to the executive branch. Yes. And over the years, they passed laws that allow the president to act in specific trade situations, national security concerns, unfair trade practices, emergency powers, things like that. Yes. So this isn't about whether tariffs can exist. No. It's about which legal authority is being used to implement them and whether that authority fits the situation. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the distinction. But let's go to a statement from Justice Thomas, because he makes a point as he was one of the 3 who ruled in favor of the tariffs. And so I'll just start from here. It says, he nailed it. This is from Judge Clarence Thomas. Neither the statutory text nor the Constitution provides a basis for ruling against the president. Congress authorized the president to regulate importation throughout American history. The authority to regulate importation has been understood to include the authority to impose duties on imports. The meaning of that phrase was beyond doubt by the time that Congress enacted this statute. Shortly after President Nixon's highly publicized duties on imports were upheld based on identical language. The statute that the president relied on therefore authorized him to impose the duties on imports at issue in these cases. Because the Constitution assigns Congress many powers that do not implicate the non-delegation doctrine, Congress may delegate the exercises of many powers to the president. Congress has done so repeatedly since the founding, with this court's blessings. And so, kind of putting a bow on this part, what this really means is if Congress were actually doing its job, a lot of this probably wouldn't even be necessary. But let's be honest, Congress can barely pass basic legislation. Instead, they waste the country's time while members on both sides of the aisle somehow keep getting richer, selling us out to China. But because Congress has delegated certain trade powers to the executive branch, that allows the president to move swiftly and get things done, which he has been able to. And when you look at the current state of Congress, that speed starts to make a lot of sense. Because really, what has Congress actually done in the president's first year of office? I mean, I'll wait. Republicans can't even get something like the SAVE Act across the finish line. And Democrats in Congress have no desire to work with Trump, only to impede him at any possible chance. And that's just a fact. But let's go to the next clip, because it's very important. A big reason many Americans feel negatively about tariffs has to do with how the story is framed. The coverage focuses on higher prices or market reaction without explaining the broader strategy. People are going to form opinions based on incomplete information. That's just how it goes. You turn on the news. For an average person, what you see is what you get, and they're going to take it. So, but that doesn't mean tariffs don't have trade-offs. They do. But if the media highlights only downside and ignores the stated goals behind the policy, that shapes public perception in a very specific way. But with that being said, check it out.
I have rarely seen public opinion turn against something as quickly as they've turned against new tariffs, Trump's tariffs. What are we talking about here? Well, you go back when Trump was reelected back in 2024. Look, the majority of Americans, the slight majority of Americans, favored new tariffs. Look at that, 52%. But look at the switcheroo. The opposition went from 48% in November of 2024 up like a rocket, now to 63% of Americans who oppose the new tariffs. The American people have felt the tariffs, and they do not like them.
So when people see prices rise, and we should note that prices have gone up, they always go up. The rate of inflation can go up and down, but prices have gone up. When they see prices go up, how much do they blame the tariffs?
Yeah, they blame it very much so. I mean, this, I think, really gives the game away. Why have they turned against the tariffs? It is because they blame the tariffs for rising prices. Look at this. Say they've already seen prices rise because of Trump's tariffs. Look at that. It was 43% a year ago. Look at where it is now. 67%. Hello. That is an over 20-point rise. No wonder the American people have turned against the tariffs, because they blame them for rising prices. That's an easy political equation to understand. You see rising prices, you blame the tariffs, all of a sudden you become opposed to the tariffs.
So you seen, you heard that, ladies and gentlemen. And so the part that they they're leaving out conveniently is that prices were already high, ladies and gentlemen. Can we agree about that? I mean, let's talk about this. Once a company raises prices and customers continue to pay them, those prices don't magically roll back. If a business can get away with charging you more, it will. That's not political. That's just how the market works. And so it's easy to grab a broad brush and blame tariffs for everything, but that's the lazy narrative. Prices are high, must be tariffs. Okay, but hold on. We already went through record high inflation under Biden. That's a fact. We're not even going to debate that. We know it. And yeah, the annual inflation rate has come down. It was 2.4%, I believe, for the past 12 months ending in January. But here's what gets glossed over. Inflation coming down doesn't mean prices go back down. It just means they're rising more slowly. There's a difference. And so when you turn on the TV and you hear tariffs equal higher prices, most viewers accept it at face value because they're not getting the full picture. It becomes the easy explanation. Blame tariffs, right? Especially, I mean, it's the legacy media. It's a liberal-leaning media. But ask yourself this. Inflation hit record highs. Those price increases were baked in. And historically, once prices rise because of inflation, they don't fall back to where they were 5 years ago unless we enter a serious recession and demand collapses. Sure, some sectors like gas can fluctuate, but do you really think a company that was making thinner margins 5 years ago is suddenly going to say, you know what? Inflation has cooled down a bit. Let's roll our prices back to 2020. The levels they were then. No, they're not going to do it. The only time that happens is when consumers completely stop buying. And that's not what we're seeing. And so before people automatically connect every price tag to tariffs, they need to understand the broader economic timeline, at least at a bare minimum. Inflation surges first, price sticks, and then the media, they'll simplify the explanation. And so I just think the context matters. That's the update and my thoughts. Now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know you enjoy the content. Subscribe to stay locked in with future videos. And as always, until next time.